好，谢谢大家今天看这一场，就是我们今天的最后一场这个放映的《娜娜似水年华》。那今年台北电影节很荣幸的可以做印尼导演这个卡蜜拉安迪尼的这个焦点影人专题，也荣幸的选映他了4部的长片。那刚刚大家看到这个《娜娜似水年华》也是卡蜜拉在今年入围柏林影展主竞赛的最新的一个长片作品。那我们等一下在这个大师讲堂的部分就会邀请就是卡蜜拉，然后来一起跟大家聊聊他的一些创作过程，还有就是整个的电影的一些背景。那我们就稍等一下我们的器材架设，也等一下我们的导演上线。好，再请各位稍等一下。好，那我们在等导演的过程，就是稍微先跟大家简介一下，就是卡米拉安迪尼的他的一个背景的过程，因为他其实就是如果有关注台北电影节的影人的话，就是他就是嘎令的女儿。那我们现在就是先欢迎就是卡米拉安迪尼，然后也请大家可以掌声的欢迎我们的导演。
We see Camila's. Hello, we see Camila online now.
好，那是不是可以先请卡米拉，然后跟台湾的观众朋友打声招呼？
So, welcome, Camila. Thank you for these sessions. And can you say a few words to the audience in Taiwan first?
Hi, everyone. I'm very honored to show not only one of my films, but most of my works in here. And I'm so glad to meet all of you that give your time tonight to see the works. So thank you so much. It's my honor to present the film as well.
很荣幸今年的台北电影节有机会可以选映4部我的作品，那很高兴各位今天有机会也花了一点时间来看我最新的作品。
好，那我们在正式开始之前，我们也先请就是卡米拉可以跟全场今天满场的观众来进行一个大合照。
Before we go on to the sessions, we would like to take a group photo, so we will probably need everyone to turn around and face the camera in the back. But for Camila, you can just look at the camera, and we'll put you in the photo.
好，那我们现在请观众可以转向后面的我们的摄影师在后方，我们来进行一个跟卡米拉进行一个大合照的部分。
Our cameraman is in the back, so please turn around and face the camera. Okay, we have the photo. Thank you.
好，然后在讲座的开始，我会先问几题问题，然后我会再留30分钟，然后来给观众的这个提问。那我们先从卡米拉的这个经历开始，其实就是因为他是我们刚刚有提到，就是2019年我们曾经做过台北电影节做过这个嘎令努格如火的这个焦点影人的单元。那其实卡米拉是他的女儿，但其实卡米拉的背景其实还蛮特别，她其实并没有就是走一个所谓的正规的一个电影的学习，反而她是从社会系就读社会系毕业，然后也带到就是她的一个电影创作。那也想先请问，就是卡米拉在这个是如何就是以社会系的这样的一个背景，然后来在电影创作中有没有就是汲取这样的一个背景来作为你创作的一个养分？
So at the beginning, I will start with a few questions and then open the floor for a question and answer from the audience. So first of all, I would like to talk about your backgrounds. Your father is actually the filmmakers in focus in 2019's Taipei Film Festival. And we know that you actually didn't study filmmaking when you were in college. You studied sociology. So I would like to know about your backgrounds and educational experiences. How do you include sociologies and this kind of perspective into your filmmaking process?
Well, actually, my creative process is very organic in a way that I have to realize that actually I was born in films. I mean, cinema has always been always been in my world since I was a kid. My father is filmmaker. I've been too close to it since the beginning. but I don't know if I want to be one or not. Even people always expected me to be one. So it's not an easy choice for me actually to be a filmmaker myself. I started to learn filmmaking when I was in high school. It was the era where Indonesian film actually coming back to the cinema. So during my father's period, our history of cinema, we don't have any films in the cinema at that time during the 90s. So my father was the only one who made films during that time. And it come back to the cinema in 1998 and 2000. So when I was in high school. So at that time, cinema is something that become an option for Indonesian as well. And that's when I started making films because everyone, my friends who wants to be a filmmaker and want to make a film, they always ask me because my father is a filmmaker, because they thought I know a lot and I'm good at it. But actually, I don't know nothing about it. I have no idea how to make film at all. So that's when I realized this is something that brought me up, that growth me as a person, and but I don't know anything about it. So I started making film, learning making films actually to respect the medium. But then I fell in love, and but at that time I don't know if I want to be filmmaker or not, because if I want to be one, it's gonna be it has to be very firm decision, because I don't want to be something, it's just a face or something like that. I don't know if you want to translate first.
好，其实一开始的时候，我知道从小，因为就像刚才主持人所说的一样，我的父亲就是导演，所以我从小就耳濡目染，沉浸在经营在电影的世界当中，所以对我来说，这是一个非常熟悉的媒体。但很多人也从我小时候就开始顺理成章的期待或期望我能够成为导演，但其实对我来说，这个并不是一个我一定会往的方向发展的方向或者路径，我也并没有很自然而然就一定要选择电影。其实我一开始的时候有不同的兴趣、不同的嗜好，我一直到中学的时候才开始去学习电影这样的一门艺术跟技术。其实在当时的时候，我父亲在拍摄电影的时候，90年代的时候，其实印尼并没有所谓的电影的文化或者是电影创作环境。当时一直到了98年、2000年左右的时候，其实这个电影的文化才开始慢慢的由本地导演创作出后，再慢慢的回到电影院跟这个电影文化。那个时候我大概是中学，我的很多同学都知道我是电影导演的女儿，所以大家都问我有关于电影导演的事情，或是如何拍片等等。他们都预期我可能会对于拍电影这件事很熟悉、很了解，但其实我对他这门艺术一无所知。所以后来我才开始慢慢去尝试，想要去了解这个媒介，也因为尝试了之后，就进而爱上这个媒介。
And so I choose sociology because I don't know. That's one of the topic that I like about. I always love talking about human interest and society as well. Since when I did photography before as well, so that's one of the topic that I like. And during my study, I learned. I mean, in Indonesia, mostly we learn about Hollywood films. That's one of the things that we only get in the cinema. But then when I was studying sociology, I watch. That's the time when I watch a lot about Asian cinema, and that's when I learn about a lot of them, like Ozu, Simon Liang, Karwai, Kim Ki-duk, and a lot of our great masters. And that's one also makes me realize that cinema is so wide, it's so diverse, and it allows me to speak about us. Actually, that's what I get from watching all of those movies. So that's actually the moment when I realized that I think this is my medium, that I want to talk about me. I want to talk about us, Indonesian, and I want to talk about who we are. And yeah, because that's what's always been talked about from our great directors before as well, and it's possible. And from their movie, I also see possibilities, and that's what been very amazing and interesting as well. And I want to create that as well, possibilities.
我当时之所以在大学的选择主修社会学，是因为我一直对于人还有社会上的利益等等感到非常的有兴趣，所以进一步想要去透过社会学来了解这个世界。我们其实当时在印尼，主要在电影院里面看到都是好莱坞的作品。我一直到大学的时候，主修社会学期间，才开始接触到其他亚洲国家的电影，包括欧洲的电影、蔡明亮的电影等等。从他们的作品当中，其实让我进一步的了解到，其实电影这个媒介非常的宽广，非常的多元，有非常多的可能性，也让我进一步思考有没有办法用这样的媒介，用电影这样的手法跟途径来去诉说我的故事、我们的故事。那我们是谁？印尼人是谁？用印尼的方式来说印尼的故事等等。我也希望透过这样的方式之后，能够让大家看到更多亚洲不同的面貌。而另外一方面，我也从他们的电影里面这些亚洲作品当中看到了很多新的令人惊艳的可能性。我也希望透过我的作品可以传达同样的可能性。
好，那我们在这次选映的这个4部长片中，其实我们都可以很明显的看到，就是卡米拉对于一个角色的选择，它其实都是从女性的视角为出发。比如说像我们看到海洋魔镜和我5宝宝孩子的孩子，然后还有第3次求婚的一个青少女，到刚刚的大家看到娜娜这样一个妇女，都是以女性角色的出发，也探讨着这个女性的自主，还有一些寻求新方向或新生活这个选择。那当然也想请卡米拉谈一下，说为什么在您的作品中，就是会选择这个女性的视角为出发，以及您觉得关注女性议题的这样的一个意义又是在哪里
？In the films that we show to screen in the Taipei Film Festival this year, including The Mirror Never Slide, The Seen and Unseen, Uni, and Before, Now, and Then, they all portray a female protagonist. They portray a female perspectives, and many of them are looking or searching for new identity or new directions and possibilities. I would like to know that why would you choose and why did you choose to include these female perspectives as your protagonists in these movies?
This is also like goes very organically. I mean, it's not something that I intended since the beginning, actually. But one of the things when I come into the cinema, when I want to be a filmmaker, I want to search of who I am actually first, because you know, as I said before, I'm coming from a father who is a filmmaker. In the beginning, everyone's sort of like telling me what to do. Like, oh, you should make something different than your father. You should make this or you should make that. But as a creator in the beginning, you don't know what you're actually good at. You don't know who you are. You're just starting this. So I want, in my process when I make film, I want to search on who I am. That's the objective actually every time I want to create. I want to find out who I am as an Indonesian, who I am as a creator. And for that, that's why I always make personal films. And for that as well, that's why I always wanted the main character has to be as relate as possible as me, because she's going to tell what I feel or what I thought or what is in my mind about the story and the incident or whatever it is in the story. So since the beginning, I always, when I make The Mirror Never Lies, I want the main character is female, even though she's a kid. Even though it was very hard to find a local female young actors as well, especially non-professional one. But with that character, with female character, it allows me to be able to understand her more than others. And then it goes along the way like that, and it's very organically grows, and the perspective become more clearer and more clearer for me of what I want to say or what I want to find out and what I want to looking for or what I want to question even.
其实这样的过程也是 这样的过程也是非常有机、自然而然发展出来的。我并不是刻意要让所有的角色都是女性，或者都是以女性为主角。我当时一开始拍摄电影的时候，其实很多人会认为我是导演的女儿，所以我应该知道这个电影怎么创作等等。但其实身为一位新锐导演，做第一部片或者是刚做这部片的时候，其实我是毫无头绪的，我并不一定不清楚我到底想要拍的主题是什么，所以在过程里面，大家就开始说对我指点点说，比如说你应该拍出跟你父亲不一样的作品啊，你应该拍摄这个主题那个主题等等。对我来说，拍电影的过程有一部分是在找寻我自己，在寻找我自己到底是谁，我想要说什么。所以我后来也这几个故事里面，也同样都让女性作为主角。我希望这个角色可以贴近我，然后更加切身，能够说出我的想法、我的感受，我在找寻什么，或者我在质疑什么。所以从第一部片这个《海洋魔镜》的时候，我当时即便这个主角是一位孩子，我还是希望她是个小女孩。那在当时的印尼，其实要找群专业的童星来做演员，其实并不容易。不过我们后来还是找到了一位演员来帮我们一起合作来创作这部电影。所以过程里面，其实我都希望能够透过这些角色来去述说我看到的观点，甚至是我如何去质疑这个社会跟这个世界。
好，那就是回头就是导演刚刚有提到他的首部作品《海洋魔镜》中，其实他是以一个有海上吉普赛之称的这个巴霍人的民族，然后来作为这个整个故事的一个创作的一个族群描绘。那也想请问，就是说导演其实在创作这部片的时候，其实年仅才23岁，那当初怎么会想要选择这样一个族群去描绘，以及说想要讲述这样的一个故事作为他首部影片的题材
So in your first film, The Mirror Never Lies, that we show here in the festivals, you chose and focus on a particular group of community is Bahor people, and you focus on them. So at that time, you were around 23 years old. How did you find this group of people, and why did you choose to focus on this group of community to portray their stories?
Yeah. So if you see all the films, it actually shows the face. I mean, I grow together with the stories actually. So with The Mirror Never Lies, for example, I was 23 at that time, and I love diving at that time. I'm not diving so much anymore because I already have kids now. But at that time, it was a time when I was doing a lot of diving around Indonesia. So I was really, really in love with the sea, the ocean itself that for me contains a lot of mystery. And I often met this community in certain area of Indonesia during my diving. And at the time, I was thinking if I want to make a first film, I want to talk about the ocean of Indonesia, which actually technically it separates us because Indonesian is, as you know, we have more than 17,000 islands, which is most of it is the ocean area. But people always think that it's what separates us. But the Bajonis thing, it's what connected us actually. It's a very different kind of thoughts or perspective that what interests me. So I want to show that connection. How do you connect with the ocean that hold a lot of memories or a lot of mysteries as well at the same time. So that was the idea of The Mirror Never Lies, and I started to write story about it.
其实我的故事，我的拍片经验而言，都跟我的人生一同成长呢，一同在发展。当时就像主持人所说的，我拍第一部长片的时候年仅23岁。我现在当时非常喜欢潜水，现在因为有孩子之后，其实我潜水的机会少了很多。不过当时非常喜欢潜水，非常喜欢探索海洋。那我觉得海洋是非常有意思、非常奇妙，而且非常神秘的世界。其实大家都知道，印尼其实是有超过17000座岛屿共同组成而成的。那很多人会的认知当中，他们认为印尼是被海洋所切割成这么多破碎的岛屿，但其实我觉得海洋其实是串起这些岛屿，让我们串联起来的一股力量。所以对我来说，我希望能够去呈现出这股海洋串联彼此、串联整个世界的力量。那另外一方面，我在这个潜水的时候也时常会遇到巴霍人，所以我也希望，如果我第一部长片要拍摄的话，我希望以海洋为主题去呈现它的神秘之处，同时也去呈现出我所认识跟接触到的巴霍人。
那接下来的他的下一部作品，他们下一部作品588孩子们，其实是以一个双胞胎这样一个双生的一个故事为出发点。那其实里面融入了很多的关于印尼传统，还有皮影戏，还有图腾等等。那可不可以请卡米拉导演来讲解一下，就是当初为什么也选择这样的一个有关于神话色彩的一个故事，以及它这个故事的出发点会是在哪里？
The second film that you made, The Seen and Unseen, is focused on twins. And these twins, it also includes a lot of the traditions in Indonesia, the puppetry, and also a lot of symbols, a lot of icons from Indonesia and the traditional society. I would like to know that why do you choose this topic and include so many traditions from Indonesia into this film?
Well, I think to involve traditions in each of my movies and to interest in certain community or society is something that also maybe from the background from what I love to learn sociology itself. So from that background, I always like to talk about communities, societies, and how relation actually always affected on the space where they live and how the characters of the living area. But for the Seen and Unseen specifically, after I made The Mirror Never Lies, I wanna search more internally actually about who we are as Indonesian. If you see The Mirror Never Lies, you see Indonesian as a physical. You see the beautiful of it. You see where we live and how it is like. But I wanna find out more internally who we are, how we connect. I believe Indonesian, we believe everything that we believe. We're not very rational people. We believe everything basically, but that's who we are. And I want to show that. I want to show the connection that we have in between inside as well. So I found the philosophy in Bali about the seen and unseen, which is Sekala and Skala. It talks about how Balinese and also Indonesian actually, because the belief also I found it also in many culture in Indonesia. We believe that life is actually proposed to hug everything that is good, but also everything that is bad. There is duality within what we have here in the world, and I think that portrays a lot who we are. So in the seen and unseen, I want to portray that duality in the element of cinema. So if you see twins, sister and brother, and body and soul, thoughts and spirits, you see dark and lights as well in the film. That's what I explore in the film's duality and dualism.
可能是因为我来自学习社会学的背景，所以其实我一直对于社会群体、族群，还有彼此之间相互互动之后，对于自己的生活居住环境产生什么样的影响有很大的兴趣。那我也认为在这个过程里面，我们不断去我在这个作品里面想要去往内在探索。因为刚才在第一部作品《海洋魔镜》当中，各位看到其实是我们非常美丽的环境，自然环境，不论是海洋，不论是生活的环境等等，都是非常美丽的。但是在第二部的时候，我希望能够去探索内在到底什么是印尼人的身份认同，什么样的连结，什么样的概念跟元素可以去构成我们所谓认知的印尼人。那我在接触到了很多的这个不同的族群信仰，还有这些观念的时候，发现其实印尼有非常多元的信仰，他们有各种不同的信仰。那尤其在巴厘岛的这个信仰当中的时候，他们特别强调这个看得见的跟看不见的事物，这两者之间的不同的元素，有些人认为是对立的，但有些人认为他们是共存的。那在很多的印尼社会里面，其实都有这样的概念，很多的二元性的同时存在。所以各位看到，在这部作品里面有双胞胎，有姐弟，然后有各种不同的元素，比如说看得见的事物、看不见的事物、身体跟心灵、精神跟想法、光和影等等，这些二元性都是我在这部片里面想要去探索的。我也透过巴厘岛这样的这个信仰的过程当中，然后去呈现出我们很多人认为印尼人他们所认知的身份认同。
那在去年的时候，就是大家这次也看到卡米拉的安迪尼的导演在去年就是有2部作品的推出，一部就是《第三次求婚》，还有《娜娜似水年华》。那《第三次求婚》也很特别的，就是我们刚刚看到前2部作品呢，其实都以一个小孩为出发点。那第三次求婚其实就聚焦在这个18岁少女的这样的一个主角身上，然后也讲述出印尼女性就是在介于这个准备要上大学之际，他们在一个婚姻还有就是青春人生的一个迷茫的选择。那首先也想请问，就是导演就是在这个题材上面是如何找到这个题材，而且是不是可以就是讲述一下就是印尼女性现在目前的处境？
So after these first two films that focus on children's, and in the third films, Eunice focus on an 18-year-old teenage girl who are graduating from high school. They're struggling and thinking about whether she should go pursue higher educations or go into marriage. So I would like to know how that evolved that you choose this topic, and also what's the social conditions and predicaments for females in Indonesia in general now.
Yeah. So after Mirror Neverlies and the Scene and Unseen, actually, the Scene and Unseen, I made the film for 7 years in total. So it was a long time to make that film. And as a creator, I also have a very big leap in my life. So in the beginning, when I wrote the story, I was in love with children's stories, and I love to talk about something that usually not to talk about with them. For example, it's like death. It's something that I'd like to talk about from the perspective of children. But when I write the film, in the middle of writing the film, I get married and I have kids. When I become a mother, I have a very different perspective than I was before. I was like, why do I have a film about kids and that? Like, I don't know, because it's too hard for me. So the Scene and Unseen, that's why when you see the films, there is the mother character that I have to lift up in the story to resemblance my perspective as well at that time as a mother. So when I'm thinking about making the third film, I see who I was at that time as well, my perspective as a woman. And at that time, I made several stories that also like short films that actually the main character is a woman. So people already acknowledge that I make film about women, even if I'm not intended to be like that. It's like very organic and everything. When I realized that that's actually one of my default to make film with female characters, I realized that I should talk more about them. I mean, I have this not obligation, but I felt like the urgency to actually talk about the gender, not only using them as main character to make me relate with them. So Uni was created with that needs to actually contribute to the characters as well. I wanna say more about who we are as a female, not just us in general. So I talk about some. So this is a story that I actually heard from my one of the female worker that works in my mom's and my house as well in the past. And this is her daughter's story. So her daughter has to get married within several proposals in her life during high school until she has to marry her literature teacher. And when I heard the story, I felt like it's not the first story that I heard about children marriage in Indonesia. But at the same time, because I just had my second kids, and both of my kids actually a girl, so I have two daughters. I wondered of like how they can be as how much freedom that I have in the future to have a choice for their life. And I want to talk about it. I want to talk about it for them. I want to show them that you can actually choose anything that you felt. Then even though, I mean, like Uni, she is in high school, and I particularly so much remember when I was in that stage as well. You make mistakes as a woman, you make many silly things, but it doesn't mean that you don't have a choice. You always do. And yeah, I think that's what the movie is about.
我之前的第二部作品《500孩子们》，其实前后拍了7年的时间。其实在这7年当中，我自己也有很多人生的变化，这也改变了我对于看待世界的观点等等。我当时在做拍这部作品的时候，在筹备的时候，其实我在描述是孩子的故事。但在7年当中，我其实结婚生子。那我自从成为人母之后，其实看待世界就完全改变了。我就觉得我为什么还在继续的撰写孩子的故事？我是不是应该有其他不同的观点、其他想法？所以在拍摄完这个第二部作品之后，我后来陆续也拍摄了一些其他的短片。那这些短片同样是以女性为主角，但就像刚才说的一样，我并不是刻意的要选择女性，但是我自然而然就是慢慢把这些角色都目光焦点转移到女性的身上。但是在第3部片的时候呢，我就觉得应该要做些转变。我并不应该只是把角色设定成女生，让她能够跟我有更多共鸣，或者是产生切身的感觉。我应该更进一步去处理，比如说这个性别女性到底在这一个社会当中面临的什么样的问题、什么样的角度跟情况等等。那在这一个过程当中的时候，我就听到了一个故事，这个是在我们家帮忙的一位一位妈妈她的女儿的故事。她在刚才提到说，在印尼的社会里面，女孩子如果在接受到几次求婚之内一定要结婚，所以她的女儿就因此才高中还没毕业就嫁给自己的文学老师。那我就开始想象，因为当时的时候我生了第2个孩子，我的2个孩子都是女儿，我在想象的是他们这还这么小。那他们长大之后，到底会面对到什么样的社会、什么样的环境，有没有什么样的选择跟可能性？那我们在这个故事里面，其实看到的是，很多人都认为他们在这样的社会、这样的环境当中的时候，他们就应该要顺从这样的模式继续走下去。可是我希望透过作品里面，能够告诉社会，或至少告诉我的2个女儿说，其实你的人生是有选择的，你一直以来永远都有不同的选择可以进行。
那接下来就是最新的作品，就是刚刚大家看到《娜娜逝水年华》。那其实它就是以一个就是母亲的角色这个出发，然后去把背景设立在就是印尼的1960年代，也就是苏卡诺和苏哈托政权这个交界这个时刻。那也想请问，就是卡米拉导演为什么要选择这样的一个背景？那这个背景也是可能他在这几部片中最明显是直指非常明确的这样的一个历史背景。那也当然也想要请问，就是说为什么会以这样的一个母亲的角色作为故事的题材
？The audience here just watched Before, Now, and Then and focused on a mother, of course, and this time we have pinpointed a specific time periods in Indonesia that between the Suharto and Sukarno and Suharto regimes. So why did you choose this time periods, and why did you choose a mother characters to portray this period of time in Indonesia?
At this moment, before now and then, as a creator, I found out that from what I did before, from the journey that I had before, how much I love to talk about not only the macro of woman, but also the micro, not only the macro sides of woman, but also talk about the micro sides of woman. I always love to talk about that. So when I started to write again about Before, Now, and Then, I question a lot, like what I mean. The woman in Indonesia, we goes as a history, we goes from many kind of era. Even the last era, the new order, it's actually very new for us. I mean, the Reformation is not long ago, and there are a lot of things happens. And even before Reformation, we go through a lot of things before. But I think many things is also still the same. So I wanna question this, like what kind of thing that as a female that we already move forwards, but which part also we still actually feeling the same thing, or we still facing the same way as before. So the transition, I felt like a lot of Indonesian female characters, Indonesian female, Indonesian mothers, they carried actually the same thing from times to times, from one transition to another transition, and everything, and how to show that in not only in a big perspective, but also in a very small institution like marriage or home. It's like a secret, or it's like a mystery that we always carried on from time to time. And this is what the film is about. It's about the secrets of women, that the complexity that we have, that maybe not a lot of people understand, but that we carried it from time to time, from certain period to another. And this certain period of 60s, 65-ish actually, this area is actually a very mysterious era for Indonesian history. So I sort of see those relation, the mysterious relation of of woman, and also the time of the period as well. So that's the connection of Nana.
在这部作品当中的时候，其实我们要其实我那时候当时就感兴趣的，除了是女性的个体之外，也有去关心，比如说整个社会整体到底跟女性这个个体之间产生什么样的互动，跟相互的影响等等。因为有时候我们其实，在印尼的社会当中，经历了很多的转型、很多的新政改革、变化等等，其实都是非常晚近发生的事情。即便经历了很多变化之后，但是有时候我们还是觉得社会的某些层面其实是一成不变的，依然如此，并没有任何改变跟变化的。那有时候可能会觉得，比如说我们的人生进行到了不同的阶段之后，为什么有些事情还是依然如此，还是没有任何的变化等等，或者是在这些女性当中，她们其实即便经历过了这么多人生不同的阶段，她们心中还是怀有一些秘密，然后还是依然去背负这些秘密，没办法说出来，或没办法去改变它等等，这些都是我在这部作品《娜娜》当中希望能够去呈现的观众的主题。那之所以选择1965年前后这个主题这个时间，是因为这个时期对于印尼的社会而言，其实是非常神秘的一段时期，有很多我们还不知道的事情。我觉得这个神秘一部分也呼应了很多女性深藏在心底的秘密，所以我特地选用了这个主题跟这个时期作为这次作品的内容。
好，那现在剩下的时间，我们也开放观众提问。如果有想要提问的观众朋友，可以举手。
Now we open the floor for questions for the audience. Any feedback, comments, or question from the audience?
好，那边有一位观众，请等一下我们的
We
麦克
see
风。
someone in the back, so let our staff to pass to the microphone. 请说。
导演你好，我想要询问一下，就是看了你这次放映的4部电影，然后电影里面出现还蛮多诗词的，尤其是在 Uni 里面，所以想要请问一下，就是导演在选用这些诗词上面有怎样的选择，以及为什么会想要把这些诗词融入在你的电影里面？然后另外一个是，可能是我自己想太多，就是在看到导演的电影里面。无论是生灵或是心理上面，我觉得死亡这个东西在导演的电影里面算是一个还蛮有趣的一个因素或是要素，所以想请问一下导演对于死亡的看法是什么？谢谢。
I have two questions for you. I've watched your films in these festivals, especially in uni. You include a lot of poetry into these films, and I would like to know the way and why you selected to include this poetry into this film or other film as well. And my second question is regarding to certain elements in this film. I think death is actually quite an interesting element that happens and appears in different movies of yours. So I would like to ask about your perspective on death.
Okay, first about poetry, I'm not sure I can explain about how I always love to use poetry, even if there is no poem in the film, but I always like the tempo or or the soul of it in every area of my work. I think it's one of the things that is very personal to me that I always like to use. But specifically for uni, why I use poetry for the film is because the beginning I want to find something that could make uni escapes from the world, something that is very secluded and quiet, but very sensitive, maybe place where I think poetry can give that kind of space to escapes. But again, poetry is something that is not very close to this kind of community and society. Usually, young people doesn't actually read poetry in that kind of society and that age as well. So when I'm thinking about poetry in uni, I was thinking to have what is uni's first encounter of poetry. That's why I use Sapardi Djoko Sudarmono's poetry in the film, most of his work, because it was my first encounter of poetry, or Indonesian poetry. I mean, I heard Sapardi's poetry when I was a kid, when I was in primary school. It was actually the first time I learned about. I have encounter and imagination about, forests, water, love, and relations. Everything actually coming from his poems. So I want his poem to be Uni's first poems, Uni's first encounter of poetry. The second thing about death, actually, if you see my works, maybe there are a lot of mysteries that actually comes within, and death is something. It's the biggest mystery I think that we all have. Maybe I have as well as a human being. There is a power. It shows power, and yet it shows mystery and secrets as well. It's a question that you're never able to answer in a way. So I don't know why, but I maybe cannot explain it as well. But it always be something that interests, always been a mystery that interesting for me.
那针对诗歌的部分的话，其实我自己个人一直很喜欢诗歌这样的形式、这样的题材。我喜欢它的韵律、它的叙事方式、它的风格表达等等，所以这是我个人的偏好。那至于 Uni 里面为什么去呈现诗歌的话，我认为，比如说，如果在这样的社会当中，我们要给 Uni 一个可以逃脱的空间，可以去远离社会，一个给自己安静沉淀的一个小空间、小角落的话，我认为诗歌也许就可以提供这样的可能性，这样的一个小角落，让他能够先跳脱这个世界上面的种种一切喧嚣。那对于他们这个年纪的年轻人而言，其实他们平常的时候并不会接触诗歌，或者很少接触诗歌。那我就会好奇，如果是这样的一个角色或这样的年纪的孩子，他第一次接触诗歌的时候，会接触到谁的诗歌，会是什么样的诗歌？我自己在这部作品里面去选用这个诗人，他其实也是我小时候第一次接触到印尼的诗歌的时候所接触到的诗人。那是我小时候自己还在小学的时候第一次接触到了这样他的作品。那也因为他的作品开始让我对于比如说森林啊、水啊、爱啊、关系啊等等各种的事物有很多的想象、很多的想法，所以我也好奇是，如果把这个诗歌放在这个角色眼前的时候，他会有什么样的反应？他会如何跟这个诗歌来做互动？所以我当时就选用了这位诗人的作品，在这一部的作品当中。那至于死亡的话，其实各位看过我电影的话，我的电影里面很多之后都包括很多神秘的元素。那我其实觉得，对于所有人而言，死亡是一个非常神秘的世界，它有很强大的力量，但是也有很多的秘密是我们 有很多问题，但是永远找不到解答的事情。那个是一个我们想要探知，但是不一定知道到底其中是什么东西。所以我觉得这个死亡对我来说，它也是一个很神秘的元素。我也许没办法非常清楚的说明为什么会去不断的呈现，或者是去投射出死亡的概念。可是对我来说，也许这个跟神秘之间有一些相互的关联性。
好，那还有观众有提问吗？后面有一位。
Any other questions? Yes, we have another questions coming from the audience. 请说。
导演你好，我想要问第三次求婚里面就是文学老师的部分，因为 Uni 有发现他是有变装的癖好，那我想要问一下这个文学老师他是纯粹就只是男性喜欢变装吗？还是他其实是想要成为跨性别者？那如果他想要成为跨性别者的话，那他为什么后来又选择跟 Uni 结婚？那还有如果他不是跨性别者的话，那想要问一下印尼社会对于这样子的，就是男性他只是喜欢有变装癖，或者是对于跨性别者有什么样的看法？谢谢。
So I would like to ask about Uni, this film, and the literature teacher, because Uni discovered that this literature teacher also liked to wear female dress and the transvestites. I would like to know, in your story, do you portray her as a male who likes to dress in female dress, or you portray him as someone who wants to become a transgender? If you think that this literature teachers would like to become a transgender, why does he in the end choose to marry Uni? And how do the Indonesian societies regard and consider them, or do they judge them or take a different perspective look on these people?
Okay, for Uni, in specific for Pak Damar character, it's actually also coming from a real character that I also use the story about her actually in the film. So it was the stage when she was a hijab cross dresser. Actually, that's how she liked to tell about herself. But it was the stage. What I use in the story is the stage when she also was very conscious of who she was actually. She liked to wear hijab because her mother does, her sister does, and everyone else. But she was so confused because in this kind of community, being a teacher is something that it's a very high status in the society, and everyone is actually very looking towards you. It's a meaningful profession, just like police or someone who works in the government. So you are sort of perfect in the society. This kind of thing was not accepted in the society, and with his profession, her mother was very proud of her. But with this kind of differences, she might become the shame of the family. So it's the stage for Pak Damar herself. It was a stage when she was quite confused of what we can even for opening up of who she is. So marrying Uni is one of it's maybe the only solution for him, because in this kind of society, marriage is the solution for everything. So it's kind of a good deal to be married with her, but she can be herself, he can be herself. He thought that she thought it's gonna be a good deal, but of course not for Uni, because marriage is not her solution for this kind of thing.
这个角色，这个文学老师角色，其实也是基于一个真实故事。那当时在这个真实故事的人生当中，他其实这是他的第一阶段，就是他当时开始觉得很困惑，他喜欢穿女装，然后因为他的母亲、他的姐姐也都穿女装，所以他好像也开始喜欢穿女装的感觉了。可是这个行为在印尼社会是不被允许，在他们这个族群这个社会是不被允许的。在印尼，尤其是这个族群当中的时候，老师其实是一个非常备受尊重跟敬重的职业。他们觉得你就有特定的身份地位跟价值，你在社会里面是高人一等的，就像公务员啊或特定的价值等等，所以大家对于这样的职业是有敬仰的，是有崇拜的，所以对于这个老师他的母亲而言，他对于这个孩子非常的引以自豪。但是如果外界发现他有这样的癖好或者这样的习惯的话，其实他就成为变成是家族的羞耻或者家族之耻等等。这样的情况之下，对于这个老师而言，好像娶了 Uni 是一个很好的解决方案。在这个社会当中，很多时候大家都觉得结婚可以解决的问题，所以他们觉得只透过结婚之后，大家就愿意接受他有一个正常的所谓正常的这样的一个家庭之后呢，他也许可以继续维持他这个自己喜欢穿便装的习惯等等。当然，婚姻这个选项对于 Uni 而言就并不是一个好的解决方案，但是对于这个文学老师当时而言，他们也许觉得这就是可以解决问题的一种方式。
好，那我们还有观众朋友想要问问题的吗？
Any other
这边
questions?
有问，
More hands?
等一下我们再到后面那一位。
请说。
导演您好，我也看您这次的4部作品了，那有2个小问题。第一个是就是在 Uni 第3次求婚当中，那这个女主角被赋予有一个紫色的代表色，想请问导演，就是这有什么特别含义吗？那第二个问题是就是我有注意到导演就是在您的作品中有安排偷东西这样的设定，比如说Uni就是他喜欢看到紫色的东西就会去想要偷。那在海洋魔镜中靠近故事的结尾，最后就是女主角也去偷了就是全村人家中的镜子。那这些行为在导演作品中并不一定是一个很负面的行为。那想请问导演对于这样的剧情安排就是有什么想法吗？就是想听听导演的分享，谢谢。
I also watched all your 4 films in the festival this year, and I would like to ask 2 questions. The first one about Uni. In Uni, you use the color purple. So, is the purple means specific meanings to you or to this character? And the second question is regarding to the action stealing. Because Uni like to steal anything purple. And also in the Mirror Never Lies, almost at the end of the films, that the characters also steal mirrors from the whole villages. So, but of course, in this film you do not portray stealing as a very negative behaviors or connotations. Is there any reason why you put these stealing behaviors into your films?
Okay. Thank you, first of all, for watching most of my works. First of all, I always like to portray I don't really much like to really separate protagonists and antagonists. I always love to see every woman is sort of in a gray area. Everyone has bad sides and good sides of them. That's what I like to talk about humanity within the characters of my works. So I believe everyone has those both sides in their characters. The second thing is about purple. Actually, there are 2 reasons why I use the color purple. First is because actually the characters of someone who's really passionate of purple colors and collect a lot of purple stuffs and even stealing purple stuff in high school, it actually comes from one of my best friends. So one of my best friend has that she loves purple since she was a kid. Even in primary school, she very obsessed. She thought that everything that is purple is hers. So it's actually like Uni. She often called by the principal always because every time there is a purple thing missing, it's always been her. So I met her and we've become friends for a long time until she got married and have kids and everything, and still in love with purple. I think this is very fascinating, her character. I just never find someone like her before, and I thought like it's something that fascinating because I felt how much the ownership that she has about these certain things that is maybe not important for most of anyone else, but very important for her, and how she wants to keep it and how she wants to own it. I think that kind of passion or feelings is very fascinating to have, despite the good or bad. I mean, it doesn't matter for me. The second thing, and I think I like to show that in uni, to have that kind of ownership of something. And the second thing is that we in Indonesia we have a certain how do you say it, like a certain say about this color. So purple always related to the color of widow. Widows here means someone who's not longer married. So she's been married but no longer have husband because of all the reason. So she sort of like used in a way. So this color always projected to this kind of female. I don't know why, and I don't know when it was started, but it always been like that. So one of the reason I use the color is also to question that actually, like why we have this kind of color. So for Indonesian, they know that this is the color of widow in a way. Yeah.
那关于你的问题的话，至于偷窃的部分，其实我只是要透过偷窃这样的行为去呈现出，其实每个角色，世界上每个人并不是非黑即白，每个人都有他的光明面跟黑暗面存在，或者比较阴暗的那一面。也许你看到这个人看起来很良、很善良、很正向等等，同时他可能也会有偷窃的行为等等。我只要去呈现出人的人性其实有非常复杂多元的面向。那之所以选择紫色的话，它其实有两个不同的原因。一个方面的话，其实紫色这样的喜好跟偏好，其实来自于我的一个小时候的非常好的朋友。我小时候的这个朋友呢，我们国小就认识了。他其实一直以来都非常喜欢紫色，他只要看到任何紫色的东西就觉得是他的，所以只要是学校里面有任何紫色的东西不见的时候，校长就会找他，然后就发现他在他的书包里面或者在他的口袋里面等等，他就一直认为只要是紫色的东西都是为他所有，所以我觉得这样的一个偏执，这样的一个执念跟这样的热情，其实非常迷人。我就希望把他这样的一个特质放在《Uni》这部作品当中。那同时的话，其实即使我这个朋友现在已经结婚生子了，他对于紫色的着迷跟迷恋还是依然存在。所以我觉得这样的一个执着跟这样的一个喜好非常的有意思。我也从来没有见过这样的人，所以我觉得把这样的特质放在这样的角色里面，应该非常的非常的特别。那另外一方面是紫色，其实在印尼社会里面，每一个颜色都有特定的含义。对印尼社会而言，紫色是寡妇的颜色。不知道为什么，不知道什么时候开始，也不知道为什么大家会这样觉得。可是大家只要看到紫色，觉得是寡妇的颜色，或代表代表的寡妇。所以我希望透过这样的作品这样的呈现之后，也一方面去质疑大家说，为什么一定把紫色就归类成一定是寡妇的角色，而不可能是未成年少女的角色。
好，那刚刚后面还有一位观众举手。
I think there's another question in the back.
前面那一排。
We'll send the microphone to you. 请说。
喂，听得到吗？
听得到，请说。
Okay. So, hi. For the film Nana, I have two questions, like personal curiosity. The first one is, if I doesn't mistaken, I read the end credit. The story basically inspired by the Kisah Radha Nana Sunani. What I'm really curious about this character is the character from the real life. If she is from the real life, how you explore and know about the story of her, and why you choose to talk about the story of her. And the second question is the film of Nana. And we can see there's a lot of, it's portrayed Sundanese culture and tradition in the film and portrayed the Sundanese woman. I'm curious why you choose the Sundanese culture, and if it's the Sundanese culture and related with your personal life and how it related with you. Thank you.
好，那两个问题一个都跟这个娜娜嗜血年华有关系。一个是我刚才看最后的这个演员名单的时候，都注意到这部作品其实是灵感来自于一个真实的人。那为什么当时会接触到这一个角色这个人物的人生？那为什么会选择要去改变他的故事？怎么去探索他的故事？那另外一方面是在这个作品里面去呈现了特定的是他的这个族群、这个文化跟传统，为什么会想要去呈现这个族群？那是跟导演的切身个人经验有关系吗？
Thank you for the questions. Actually, it's true that the story of Nana is actually based on a real person story of Raden Nana. And how do I get to know and use actually the story for this? She is the mother of one of my friend who's already become like a family actually, so it's very close to me. But more than that, actually, when I hear her story, this is also lead to the second questions because actually my mother is actually a Sundanese, so I'm actually a Sundanese myself. So the story is actually very related to my family stories as well. This is also what happened to my grandmother in that period before, and I don't know why, but a lot of Sundanese male at that time, of course, and even up until now, having more than one woman in the marriage is something that it shows sort of power as well and masculinity, and it's a very a culture and also especially a period of time that is very, patriarch time of Indonesia, especially in that era. And so it's also happened to my grandma, and I think what I like about it as well is because Raden Nana she's not like usually in Indonesia when you make period films, the person that inspired that story has to be very, someone or a hero or big names. But that's what I'm not actually going towards in this film. I want, even though it's periodic films, it's coming from a real person, I want her to be seen as any kind of woman, like normal woman that we see. It's like we're hearing our mother's story or grandma's story or our sisters. She can be the closest female around us, and she's just a woman. And it's true, and that's what most interesting again for me, because if you see my previous films as well, all of my films, it's shot in the different area of Indonesia, and it's all actually using different languages in each of the area. So, and none of these languages actually I speak. I speak Indonesian, so I don't know all the language that I don't actually speak the language that always been speaks in the story, except Nana, because I understand the language because I'm a Sundanese. I always like to talk about diversity, and after I make a lot of films about certain area in Indonesia, I want to talk about my background, my culture, something that is very close to me. So a lot of actually elements in Nana is actually what I remember about my grandmas. She loves to, she loves to do arranging flowers and the kabayas that she always wears, something that coming from my memories. And her feelings around marriage, and it's also happened to her that they divorced. She's a divorcee as well, so that kind of separation, I can feel that in my family as well. So yeah, it's kind of everything is kind of like very personal and related.
这个故事的确是基于真实人生所改编的故事。那这个真实人生呢，其实是我好友的母亲。那后来她也成为我们的亲戚，所以对我来说是非常切身的故事。那至于选择这一个族群，是因为我的母亲其实就来自这个族群，所以我自己也是这个族群的一员。所以对我来说，也是另外一个非常切身的元素。那另外一部分是，其实，在其实这个故事并不只是发生在我这个好友的母亲身上，也发生在我的外婆身上等等。这个某一个时期的印尼的男性认为，有好几个妻子是一种权力阳刚的表现，这是父权社会里面所有的现象等等。所以在当时并不是一个太罕见的事情，其实不少的男性都有超过一个以上的妻子等等。那在很多时候，在印尼拍摄时代剧的时候，他们都是如果要改变这个真实人生的话，他们都会是改变，比如说名人啊、伟人啊、重要的人士等等。但是我不想要朝这个方向进行，我希望改编的时候，这个角色可以非常贴近是我们日常生活当中寻常会见到的这种普通的女性，可能是我的母亲，可能是祖母，可能是我们在街上认识的人等等，她非常的平易近人，所以这是我希望能够去呈现这样的故事的方式。其实如果各位看我之前的作品的话，其实就知道我是在每一次作品都是在不同的印尼的地区拍摄的。那每一个不同的地区，他们有自己的语言、自己的文化。那我也其实对我来说，在这个作品里面所说的语言或方言，其实我未必能够听得懂，我未必会说，比如说巴厘岛当地的语言等等。但这一次不一样，是因为这一次是我自己所属的族群，所以我的确对于这个族群的文化有更多的认识、更多的熟悉等等。那另外一方面，很多时候这故事里面的元素都是来自于我对于外婆的印象。我小时候的时候，外婆喜欢弄花艺啊，或者她对于婚姻的很多的观念跟想法等等，都是我后来把它放进在这个作品当中的元素。
好，那今天讲堂到最后，今天也非常谢谢卡米拉安迪尼来参与我们的讲堂。那当然最后是不是导演还有什么样的话说呢？可不可以分享说，如果有下一部作品的计划，那现在有在筹备什么样的新故事吗？
So time is limited. We have to close the session. So thank you for your participation in this online session with us. Last but not least, do you have any words for our audience here? And also, do you have your plan for the next film?
Well, actually, I'm studying writing my next film, so just wait for it. And I think I just need to say thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity to watch and to show and to talk, especially to discuss about it, about the journey that I am going through, about the works that I do, about everything that I feel about cinema and the story of my my world. So thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate it.
好，我现在正在进行下一部作品的剧本撰写，所以请各位敬请期待。那我非常感谢各位今天能够花时间，除了看我的作品之外，也跟我一起在这边讨论，然后回顾我之前的创作的旅程跟过程等等。我也非常感谢、非常感动各位今天愿意花时间跟我一起来分享，还有去分析，一直都了解我在这些作品当中的时候所进行的创作历程。
好，那就是今天时间关系，今天也谢谢卡米拉安迪尼参与我们的讲堂，然后也请掌声再次的谢谢导演的参与。
Thank you for participation and thank you for being with us this time.
对，那我们导演的最新作品《娜娜40年华》也将在明天就是会在台湾正式上映，所以就是有兴趣的观众朋友也可以就是再推荐给其他的观众朋友。那我们也再次谢谢今天大家的参与。
So thank you everyone. Before now and then, we'll be screening officially in Taiwan's around Taiwan and different cinemas. So once again, thank you everyone for your participations and thank you for the evening.
Okay, bye. So bye bye now, Camila. Thank you.
Thank you.
好，那今天也谢谢大家的参与。那我们外面可以有那个 QR code 可以就是填。